Allen Dulles and John Foster Dulles and William D. Pauley. There's a whole bunch of these people that were involved in all of that. But that's that China lobby group. And they realized, wise,
they thought 240 to 60 was a win.
That's right.
Sick way of thinking.
Yep. So the bottom line is that we came within a couple of minutes of a total thermonuclear exchange at that point, and both Kennedy and Khrushchev were so incredibly traumatized by that Kennedy ordered them to shut down the whole covert operations, shut down Operation Mongoose, ordered them to stand down, to shut down the paramilitary bases down there. That was viewed as betrayal because he had given his solemn word in the Orange Bowl that he would, in fact, have the free flag of Cuba flying over the island.
Didn't he also, like, he and Khrushchev had these 18 calls that were off the record or whatever, and they agreed that they were going to shut down actual warheads?
They were going to start disassembling, each respectively, they were going to start disassembling the warheads of their respective nuclear arsenals. And that's what got him killed. The China lobby in the United States, very much grounded in Brown Brothers Harriman and that whole crowd. The China
lobby?
There's a group that they called the China lobby that believed that they were the ones that wanted to, back at Brown Brothers Harriman, they wanted to finance the rise of Germany to be the bulwark against Bolshevism in Europe. And they would control the controlling stock in all those corporations in the military of there. And then the United States would be able to turn all of its attention westward to develop the markets in Asia. And they realized that China was going to be their major adversary. And they realized that they couldn't take on China in a traditional land war because China can put 1 billion men in uniform. Yeah. They realized that at Incheon, in North Korea. They realized that at the reservoir, the Chinese put in like 100,000 men and just swarmed the NATO forces, the U.S. forces, and drove them all back. And that's how they pushed how they ended the Korean War. Is the Chinese sent a huge wave of uniformed men across the border into North Korea and pushed the Allied forces all the way down to the 42nd parallel. So that they took up root in South Korea, but that's how that happened. And so the China lobby, who had been Brown Brothers Harriman, that had been choreographing, kind of setting up Germany as the power astride all of Europe to protect Western capitalism and the business community that they'd invested in all these war industries and stuff there, that they would develop the resources of Asia. That the Vietnam invasion was all part of that. The whole Korean War thing was part of that. Was try to establish a land base in Asia. Okay, so they had this entire group called the China Lobby, and that's Claire Booth Luce and Henry Luce and Allen Dulles and John Foster Dulles and William D. Pauley. There's a whole bunch of these people that were involved in all of that. But that's that China Lobby group, and they realized that they had to maintain the nuclear weapons, so that no matter how much the Soviet Union agreed to get rid of all their nuclear weapons, and no matter how much China was willing to agree not to have any nuclear weapons, the United States unilaterally insisted upon maintaining its military nuclear arsenal because they would have it available to deploy against China in the future. They were thinking long range on this. So the bottom line is that when, in fact, Dulles and the people realized that Kennedy and Khrushchev had this backdoor channel going with their 18 letters, actually, that were being communicated back and forth. Norman Cousins was carrying these letters back and forth, and they were getting set to start to disassemble the warheads, respectively, and John 23rd. Pope John the 23rd was going to be the broker for this deal.
Oh, they had the Pope in the middle of it.
Yeah, they had the Pope
in the middle.
First
Catholic president put the Pope in the middle of it.
Yeah. Because Khrushchev trusted John the 23rd, and so that they were going to broker this, and they were going to start to disassemble these warheads, and the China lobby said no, that's not happening, and so what they did is they turned loose the S-Force, who wanted to kill him anyhow because they thought he was betraying them, over the Cuban Missile Crisis thing. And so they'd actually sent in defiance of President Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy, who ordered them to stand down from those 5 military bases after the Cuban Missile Crisis. Frank Sturgis, who was the CIA liaison out on No Name Key, he launched an actual attack against Cuba and sank a Russian ship in the harbor December of 1962. After the October Missile Crisis.
Can we pull that up, Alessi? 1962 December Cuban attack?
Yeah, and almost nobody found out about it because they were terrified that it was going to be exposed, and that was Frank Sturgis that did it.
Type in Sturgis on the end of attack.
It's going to, if they've got any data at all about it, that's the story. Okay.
Okay, let's see here.
He used the U.S. Marshals to. That's the one where they went in and burnt out the base. They went out and burnt out the base on No Name Key because they had launched that attack against the ship. It may well still be secret. They may not even be talking about it, but it was extraordinarily important, and that's the thing that triggered the people in the S-Force. They were furious that he went in and burnt out the base. Bobby and John went in and burnt out the base at No Name Key. And then what happened, they arrested them and charged them with a violation of the Neutrality Act of mounting military operations against a foreign power without authorization. But then he let them go after a few days. And then they started planning in the Everglades the base there, the Cuban anti-Castro Cuban base, started organizing a second attack against Cuba in defiance. And Bobby and John sent in a second wave of helicopter gunships, all U.S. Marshals, to burn out the base in the Everglades. And that was E. Howard Hunt was the liaison. So all of a sudden you have Frank Sturgis and E. Howard Hunt, who are the liaison to those Cuban refugee groups. Watergate, those are the two guys that coordinated the Watergate break-in with Trafficante's 3 guys who were the gunmen. Okay,
God, it all ties together.
And because Bernard Barker was found is one of the Cubano guys. He had a hole in his jacket, sports jacket pocket. He had a whole sequentially numbered set of $100 bills that was in his pocket. And they tracked them back to the bank down in Mexico, this Banco Internacional, into the account of Ogario.
Watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.